Okay, good.
Hello, Geremy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for being here. This is an awesome conversation that we're going to have, and Cherie offers her apologies. She was so excited about this conversation, and then something came up and she had to take care of. So she might pop in if she gets done early. So I told her it was perfectly okay for her to pop in late if she needed to, because I know how much she wanted to be a part of this discussion. We've talked in so many different sessions, and trading, investing, doing business in Africa always comes up. So this is a topic that I think the people will be really excited to contribute to and listen to. So thank you all for joining us. What I'm going to let you do first before we get started is I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Give us a little bio about what you do, how this topic relates to what it is you do. And you want to go ahead and start it for us?
Sure. Thank you, Tawana. And hello, everybody. I am actually in Nairobi in Kenya. So it's 1 a.m. I'm on the other side of the continent, but I'm very excited to be here to talk about something I'm very passionate about. So I'm an international trade and investment expert. And I run a company called Regal Africa. And at Regal Africa, our goal is really to help our clients create wealth. And for us, the only way you can create wealth is through trade and investment. And so for me and my passion in Africa and the African continent and the African people around the world, this is something that I do in, day out. And we're an advisory firm. So anything to do with investment banking, investment management, global trade, wealth advisory, that is the work we do at Regal Africa. And like I said, we're based out of Nairobi in Kenya, but we have clients all around the world. And so today I'll be talking about that and my experience coming from the States and coming back home and what I've learned and how I think it's important that we connect so that we can do trade and create generational wealth. Thank you, Tawana.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne. Akindele, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Akindele Akinyemi, President and CEO of the Global African Business Association. We're a business support and business education network that was started in Inkster, Michigan 7 years ago. And currently we're in Romulus, Michigan next door. That's where we're headquartered at internationally. We have hubs, not just here in the state of Michigan, but in Nebraska, Georgia, Texas, New York, the DMV. And of course, we have our representation through our GABA ambassadors in Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, and Mozambique. Myself, I'm a 20+ year educator, worked 16 years in K-12, ranging everywhere from teaching in the classroom, middle school and high school, to educational policy, lobbying, all that good stuff, and administration. And currently I work in higher education at one of our distinguished community colleges in the city of Detroit, Michigan. I'm very passionate about this because I look at Africa not as the future, but as the present. I strongly believe that the resources that we possess on the continent can fuel the diaspora in ways unimaginable. As everyone knows in the Global African Business Association and our affiliates, that I preach a concept called linking the wealth. That means we are linking resources from the continent and our respective countries here to local urban communities to help rebuild tax bases right here in the United States. I strongly believe that no city, no Black city in America should go broke if they can have resources right there in Africa. And so that's what we educate people on. That's what we teach people on and show people the ropes of how it's done. Thank you.
Very good. Geremy.
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Geremy Johnson. I'm a U.S. practicing lawyer. I focus primarily on international law. International trade is one of those areas that I focus on. I focus primarily on the trade laws, facilitating trade and investment between the U.S. and continental Africa. One of my expertise is in AGOA, the African Growth Opportunity Act, and helping entrepreneurs and businesses facilitate trade amongst between the U.S. and Africa. I also have consulted with large companies as well as international and small medium enterprises. I have a company called Johnson Global Advisory, as well as I have a media company called Global Law Media, where I've done over 100 different videos pertaining to different areas of the law, from trade law from business investment law, from starting a business, growing a business, selling a business, such and such and such. So I'm very happy to be here. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity between the US and continental Africa. I think it's one that's not being utilized to the extent that it needs. So this webinar presentation is very much needed. And I hope individuals are here to learn as well as take action. We need action, and we're here to help. And there's a lot of knowledge out here. GeremyJohnson.com, you go to globallaw.tv. Globallaw.tv have many videos covering African legal issues, and we can continue to talk and continue to dialogue. Thank you all for having me.
Wonderful. And I will let you guys go ahead and put your contact information in the chat at whatever point so that people can get in contact with you, and we'll let you share that as well at the end so that people can copy that down. I want to first welcome you all to the 10K Project. As you guys know, here at the 10K Project, we focus on wealth building, education. We do it primarily from the standpoint of equity crowdfunding, right? And we help Black entrepreneurs get the capital that they need via equity crowdfunding. But at our core, we are educators in how Black people can create wealth for themselves so that we can just be better than we are today, right? You know, I like to, we always talk about generational wealth, but sometimes you just need wealth for next year, right? Sometimes you just need to get through this year. So if we take the right actions and the right steps, it leads to the generational wealth. But sometimes that's too big for people to conceptualize, right? So I like to break it down just a little more simplistically than that, and so that people don't get discouraged by it. And so today's topic is very near and dear to my heart because I've recently started investing in Africa. I actually bought some land in Ghana. And so I'm excited about what that's going to do for my family, right? So when this topic of trade came up, I thought, what a wonderful way for us to introduce the community into how they can build wealth in this way. So, the name of the session was How African Americans Can Trade in Africa, right? So that's the question we're answering today. So Anne, if you want to start us off in how this can happen, what are the steps that occur? What do we need in place? And then we'll let Geremy, you speak to the legalities of it all. And then, Akindele, you jump in and let's talk about how your organization helps with all of that as well.
All right, Tawana, I do have to say something. I know you said that we are all sort of surviving and thinking about next year. And so when you talk about generational wealth, it's kind of hard to think about. But I think that is the challenge that we as Africans and Africans in the diaspora need to do. We need to change our mindset, because I believe that if you work towards thinking generational wealth, you make better decisions that will not only help you in this lifetime, but then generations to come. So for me, when I talk about how African Americans can trade with Africa, for me, it's really personal, like I said, with my experience having lived in the States for 15 years and deciding to come back home. And actually my experience there and working at the bank, at Bank of America, and really understanding around why we don't get the money that we need to grow our businesses and how we don't run our businesses well. But the reason I came back home is because I saw the opportunity, and I keep telling everybody the future is Africa. And the beauty about it, as us as Africans of the Black community, we have connections. You might not know where you're from exactly, but I can tell you, you just travel to the continent and it feels like home. So it's time to reconnect. So for me, I'm telling everybody, when you start thinking about trading in Africa, you have to start thinking about it from how do I get ahead? And it's all about economic power. But then now you have to ask yourself strategically, what am I doing when I'm in the States? Do I have a business? And if I have a business, does that mean that I import from Africa? Or on the other way, can you say, can I export to the African continent? Because we want to do mutually beneficial trade. And all of these have different connotations to it. So for example, if you're looking to import from Africa, right? So you see certain goods and services that are needed in the US and in our communities, and you say, I would like to have that on the continent. Then what you want to look at is something like AGOA, which is the Africa Good Opportunity Act, which is now saying there are certain goods that come into the US duty free. And it is an incentive that has been there since the Clinton administration, right? Since the 2000s. And a lot of us have not taken advantage of it. So for you as someone, as an African American, this is time for you to say, what do we need? For example, I'm in Kenya. We have great tea. We have great coffee. We have great flowers. People don't even know that all the flowers that are, a majority of the flowers in the Netherlands are actually imported to the Netherlands and they're grown in Kenya. So when you're in the States, everyone tells you, oh my God, we imported our flowers from the Netherlands. And yet the flowers actually come directly from Kenya. So now the goal is, if you are in the US, you need to understand, what is it that I can do? So instead of trading with the Netherlands, for example, you can come and get your flowers directly from Kenya, or you could get your wine from South Africa, or you can get your coffee from Ethiopia and your tea from Kenya, and your cocoa and your chocolate directly from the continent. That is what we need to be looking at. We really need to be looking at the opportunities, and I think we need to understand AGOA so that we can be able to import from Africa. On the flip side, I hope a lot of you people have been paying attention to what.
Oh, Anne froze. Let's give her a minute to come back. Did Anne freeze or did I freeze? Oh no, I see you still moving, Geremy, so I'm good. Okay. While we're waiting for Anne to come back, Akindele or Geremy, you want to jump in and add some context to what Anne was saying?
Sure. I guess I can talk. She was talking about AGOA, and that's definitely one of my specialties. I think I'm not sure if I can share. Can I share my screen if possible?
Absolutely.
Let's share my screen. Can individuals see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did a webinar. Go to my website. I did a whole webinar on the African Growth Opportunity Act, and it's talking about. I mean, it's the key trade legislation between the U.S. and Africa. I think this is one that everyone on this call should be aware of. I did this webinar on this. I'm not going to cover her scope of what she's talking about, but real quickly, some of the things I did. For example, this is the size of the U.S. economy. It's the largest economy in the world. And I think if most of the individuals are from the U.S. on this call, I think they're situated perfectly to take advantage of it. You understand the U.S. consumer market. You understand how sophisticated it can be. You understand the concept of product quality. You understand many of those things. And she's talking about it started from President Clinton. Many things of that. And AGOA, it requires, it allows you to import thousands of products into the U.S. I mean, I know she wants to talk about AGOA, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I want her to go through it. 39 eligible nations. There's one slide I want to focus on in particular. Is this slide? I think one of the biggest mistakes individuals when they focus on importing products into the U.S., they focus on things such as they'll focus on just shea butter, mangoes, cashews, or they're focused on just the raw material.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is America is a mature economy. It's a very mature economy. There are a lot of products you can do. I mean, there's over 6,500 different products you can import into the U.S. But I think the key is focus on a market for America is value-added products. That is really the key. Instead of importing shea butter, instead of importing a coconut or banana into the U.S., or is it plain old coffee into the U.S., focus on value-added products. And what do I mean by my value-added products? I mean by value-added products, I mean, instead of focus on just importing coffee into the U.S., these things right here on Amazon, you can turn that coffee into iced coffee. Kenya coffee, some of the best, you mentioned some of the best in the world. Kenya coffee, you can turn it into facial scrub, coffee scrubs, coffee liqueur. This is a caffeine extract from coffee. I mean, there's many products you can do. Coffee bean soap. This is just with coffee, but there's a lot of products in Africa. You know, Africa is flooded with resources. Right. But I think the biggest misunderstanding when it comes to trade is that people focus on importing the raw material. They dig out of the ground, pick from a tree, and send it to the United States. The United States is a very competitive market. It's a mature economy, and there are a lot of those things in there. But what will separate you apart is from the value-added products. All these things are for Amazon. All of these things are right here on Amazon. And there's a market for all of these things. But this is just with coffee. You do the same thing with tea. You do the same thing with, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Facial creams, all these different things there that you can do to export to the US. Let's focus on this real quickly. Where to find buyers, trade shows. Dealing with clothing, the Magic Trade Show is hands down the best trade show to go to when it comes to clothing. When you're dealing with food, the fancy food show is hands down the best trade show to go to when you're dealing with food. So you can have your value added product in America, get it from Africa, get it sourced in Africa, and you can build your factory, whatever it is, and you can go to these fancy food shows and have buyers ready. I mean, you have companies like Vitamin Water, they launch their brand at the fancy food show. You have things like Ben and Jerry, they launch their product at a fancy food show. These are opportunities for individuals to go to, and you can actually find buyers there that are ready to buy your product. And I'm not sure how much she's gonna go into it, but I'll let her continue. But these are some of the biggest misconceptions I see when individuals when it comes to import. I do think importing is ideal because it's duty free. I mean, your products can be, when you import a product into a country, you have to pay a duty tax, and that can range from 3%, range to 20%. But with the GOA, which is not being utilized, you can minimize your duty free. You don't have to pay that duty free tax on there. So from a standpoint, the products can be somewhat cheaper in the United States than compared to other products from other places in the world. As much as I can talk about it, but I do want to let her go ahead and go ahead.
Right. All right, Anne, we've got you back.
All right. Sorry about that. My internet usually is pretty good, but for some reason today, I don't know if it's the time, it's a little bit shaky, but I hope you can all hear me, and we will have the internet the whole way. So I just came in and I had Geremy talking about Agora, so we're speaking the same language, and which is great. So I was talking about Agora from an import perspective, because one of the things that I recognized, actually being in the States, is a lot of people didn't buy African products, and they're great products. And like I said, not your typical products that you would think about. You think about the tea, the coffees, the flowers, the fashion, the creative industry is great in Africa. Different things like that, agricultural products, wellness, cosmetics. Yeah, I mean, we're women, I don't know how many women there here, but a lot of our skincare products, hair care products are things that you can get on the African continent that we don't usually do, because we always look at Asia, Europe as to get those products. So that is the opportunity that I see in trade. But on the flip side, what I was talking about just before I got disconnected was really around Prosper Africa, right? So this is, of course, a US government initiative that started in the Trump administration, but there's a push in the Biden administration. And it's really saying that it's gonna give, Americans, and mostly Africans, the African Americans, the opportunity to actually get incentives to trade with Africa. And there's financing, there's insurance guaranteeing, there's markets. The US embassies have trade departments that can work with you. Everybody has recognized the importance of Africa, and they're saying the way that they see connecting happening is when we are all talking to each other, us as Africans and Africans in the diaspora. So that to me is really where it's. Can you hear me now?
We got you back, Anne. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No need to keep apologizing. It happens.
Yeah, we should do it during the day when internet is much better here in Kenya. But I was just saying the critical part, and I would like everyone to pay attention to, is when you're looking to trade in Africa, you really need to do market research, right? You need to understand whether it's export or import. You need to have trusted advisors. So if you're looking to get market in Africa, a lot of people come to us at Regal Africa, or other people who understand the African market and on the ground, and they would advise you exactly what you can bring to the continent, export to the continent, so that you're not just thinking that, oh, people buy these things in the US and they will buy it in Africa. That's not how it is, especially because most places in Africa, apart from a very small percentage, are very price conscious. So you might come in bringing very premium luxury goods. There is market, but it's not as large as it is in the States. So we'll need to really do market research and understand, is your business very viable? And I really do think that the opportunity is great in very many different industries. And that is what all of us need to be paying attention to. And I think the first thing you want to do if you're going to trade with Africa is take a trip to the continent. It doesn't matter what country or region. I know most people go to West Africa or Ghana, first to South Africa, or even Kenya, because of course we're the most known countries. But just go to Africa, and when you're there, you will notice the opportunities. What is missing? Because again, you come from a different perspective. So go to Africa, find trusted consultants, work with the US Embassy, and definitely become members of Chamber of Commerce's and Business Association. And then of course, join things like now the 10X Project, which is actually sharing this information, because information is power. And I think that's where a lot of us fail, because we just jump in and say, oh, I think I'll just go to Africa and sell this, or I'll import this, without actually doing market research. So that's really important. But I do have to say, when we are talking about trade with Africa, I really believe that if you buy Africa, you build Africa. But if you buy from businesses, Black businesses in your community, you build your community. So I think that we should be looking at this. Other communities, other, and I'm very pro-African, but I always say other communities, the Jewish community do business amongst each other. The Asian community does the same thing. The Europeans do the same thing. But statistically, it's been shown that we don't do it. We don't trade amongst each other. We don't buy each other's goods and services. And that is the challenge, because if we don't support each other's businesses, we cannot rise up. And since the opportunity right now is in Africa, everyone is looking in Africa, then us in the Black community need to be participating. And you do that, you either trade directly, or you put your money in investment funds that are trading, that are investing in businesses that are trading between the US and Africa, the various opportunities. But I always say you want to sit down with an advisor who would advise you what is the best way to do that. And for me, when I'm looking at these industries, we're very big when we're looking at East Africa, because that's where I'm based. We're really big on the agribusiness opportunities. That's why I kept talking about tea and coffee and horticulture, like, you know, like flowers. I mean, that's big. I mean, people don't even know that. And even we have direct flights from Nairobi to New York. So those are things that can be done. And we are not taking advantage of that. Healthcare, especially because of COVID and people paying attention to health. There's so much equipment or pharmaceuticals that are there in the US. Can you export them to Africa? So healthcare is a very big industry that we want to take a look at. Logistic funds, creative industry, like I mentioned. Everyone knows about Nollywood. There's a lot that goes on in Nigeria in regards to the creative industry. Manufacturing, media, cosmetics. Cosmetics is big, whether it is actually the ingredient or the African brand that produce these cosmetics. We really, really want to look at that. So that's my take on it. Really look at AGOA if you're looking to import into in the US, and then if you want to export American goods to Africa, you really want to look at Prosper Africa. And if you want to actually export to certain countries, I know Morocco and the US have a bilateral agreement. Kenya and the US is actually in negotiation about that kind of bilateral agreement. So you want to pay attention to that. Learn also about the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, which says that, you know, if you're doing business in Africa, we are opening the borders. Africans are wisening up. So we stopped being divided into small countries. We're now opening up our borders with goods, services, movements of people. So it's going to be very easy. It's like the way you move in the States from one state to the other with no issues. That's the way Africa is happening. And because of that, it's going to be very easy for you as an American to be able to trade in Africa with less restrictions, less barriers to do trade, because the doors are opening in Africa. But like I said, if you want to trade, the first thing is come to the continent, meet the people, have trusted advisors. And if you do that, the opportunities are endless. So thank you, Tawana. I'll let the rest of the team
talk you, in,
and then I can.
Akindele, so how does Global Africa fit in this scenario of import and export?
Well, it fits in a scenario like this with us. First, we focus on local municipalities here in the United States and educate them on how to do business in Africa. And those local municipalities are normally cities ranging from 25 to 50,000 residents. We did that purposely because most local urban communities that size struggle with their local tax bases. Now, when we started in Inkster, Michigan, which is about 10 miles west of Detroit, 7 years ago, my idea and my co-founder's idea was to create a two-way pipeline between the city of Inkster and sub-Saharan Africa. And we did that because when you look at a city like Inkster, here in Michigan, you're talking about a city that's 6 square miles, 24,000 residents. It doesn't have a bank or a credit union, 1 grocery store, 2 pharmacies. And if you look at the city geographically, anything south of the main street, which is Michigan Avenue, there's absolutely no economy. It's totally dead and impoverished. So our ideal was, well, people have been trying to utilize their resources here for quite some time to no avail. We need to be looking at things a little bit more internationally, a little bit more globally, since we have an international waterway with Canada and also the airport, which sits next to Inkster, Michigan. And so we started talking about these things with local leaders. At that particular point in time, we got appointed to some boards and commissions. Myself was the chair of the Inkster Downtown Development Authority, and also the Inkster Economic Development Corporation, as well as the president of the library board in that city. And so I was able to, and we were able to create a conversation with the community as to why this is important. These things like AGOA that we're talking about tonight, we educated our community about the benefits of that. Things like importing goods to the city, we talked about that. We use these boards and platforms to kind of link the wealth, as I call it, between African Americans and continental Africans, and even the Caribbean community got involved as well, to kind of create this synergy of understanding that at the end of the day, we can only look out for one another and build with one another. And so we did that, ranging from a cultural arts district that we're building as we speak, whether it's mule development, the library itself, onto entrepreneurship. And so our team, we have a system put in place with business, government, technology to empower entrepreneurs to do business in Africa. And our strategy has always been we connect you, like what Anne said, connect you with business associations, chamber of commerces on the continent, and people that you can trust to start that conversation and start that pipeline. Now, one of the key things I try to explain to folks is, people come to us all the time. I want to do business in Africa. I want to go make some money. I said, well, first of all, let's put the money aspect to the side and let's narrow down what you want to do in terms of doing business in Africa. So what do you want to get involved with? What sector? What industry would you like to get involved with? Is it textile? Is it food processing, agriculture, technology? Is it digital infrastructure? So I'm throwing out these ideas to folks and try to help narrow that vision down. And then once we can get that vision narrowed down, and then we put things on some paper, then I do a matchmaking with one or two of our GABA ambassadors overseas to kind of complete the process. And so in a nutshell, that's what we do. Our vision is to create, our mission is to create a two-way pipeline. African Americans doing business in Africa. We also want Africans who are doing business on the continent to come here to the US and help rebuild these communities, to create this ecosystem so we don't have to beg for anybody and beg for the crumbs from the table. We should be owning the table and writing the contents in the menu so we can control our own destiny. So I think that's very important. And really in a nutshell, in the 21st century, with all of us being connected to the internet, makes information and so transparent and so easy for us to really talk to each other no matter where we at in the world. And so we utilize these platforms in GABA to really help folks understand that we, talking about us in the diaspora, we have a stake in the world in terms of moving this planet forward period, point blank. That's the best way to put it.
Very good. So both Anne and Akindele both kind of brought this up. You talked about the trusted consultants or trusted resources. Outside of the trust factor, what are some of the other pain points that people may experience in this space?
Maybe I go in. I would say, besides trust, and business is all about relationship and building trust, the pain point for me with a lot of people in business is we're used to the efficiency of the States. So you want things, and I keep telling people when you're doing business in Africa, patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue, right? It takes time. It takes time. So don't expect that you will have a meeting with people, just fly in, fly out, and a deal is done. No. Just like people have understood the Asian culture, the Japanese culture, or the Latin American culture, Chinese culture, or different cultures whereby it takes time. People also need to understand the African culture. And then also Africa is a continent. It's not the way.
And you froze again if you can hear us. Let's give her a second. Okay, you're back.
Hey, I was just saying, sorry, the way we do business in Kenya is very different from how you do business in Senegal or in South Africa. So really understanding culture. So I think the pain points besides what we were talking about is patience, understanding culture. And that's why having a local partner is very important, or someone who's taken the time. So I might be a little bit biased because I'm a diaspora returnee, but I always tell people you want to find, in this case, an African American who has spent time in that particular country in Africa, who understands the local way of doing business, or find somebody who is from that country who is actually gone to the States, come back, because then it's easier to relate or understand both sides. So I can understand how Africans do business, and I can understand how Americans do business. So I'm always educating both sides, because in Africa, they're like, these people are too fast, and they do things a different way. And then on the flip side, Americans are like, I just need the deal done. What are we waiting for? Let's get moving, right? So it's that. So it's around being patient, understanding. But once you build a relationship and once you build the trust, then the money will flow. I tell you, if there's anywhere you'll make money, it's on this continent. So you better start early. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. That is great advice. And I can attest to that advice because as I shared, I've recently had a real estate venture, and it was difficult at first because I was the typical American is just say, let's do this. What are we waiting for? And I was blessed with a trusted resource who had the experience you just mentioned, Anne, and he was able to say, okay, I know this is how you want it done, Tawana, but here's how it's working, right? And the people that you're dealing with, here's their custom, and here's how they like to do business. And so after, probably a month of this frustration, we all got on the same page, and really I got patient, right? Because really that's what it was about. It was about changing my expectation. And everything was smooth sailing from there. So everything you just said, I would absolutely put a gold seal of approval on that, Anne. Geremy, there's a question it was in the chat, I saw it. It was about the legal structure someone had to be. I wish, let's see if she put it in the chat for me.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing it.
There was a question about, like, do you have to be a corporation or is an LLC okay? Legally, is there a better business structure for someone who wants to import or export?
Import, export, I would definitely recommend LLC. I would definitely recommend you starting your business in the US. I mean, it's all legal education, of course, not legal advice, legal education. But you want to do your business, you want to do your LLC in the state of Delaware. Delaware is known for international corporations. Pretty much every multinational corporation in America, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, MasterCard, they're incorporated in Delaware. So you want to follow some of those best practices when it comes to that. So definitely have your business in the US, because US corporate laws are by far the best when it comes to your standpoint as an American, because you are an American. I'm assuming most people on this call are from America. There are also resources America has for individuals trying to do business. that will minimize the risk, because it's all about minimizing risk. They have U.S. commercial services. They will introduce you to buyers in Africa. You may have to pay their fee, but it's the U.S. government that will introduce you to buyers who are actual real buyers, not people who are just saying, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. And they, I've been in Africa multiple times. I've been to Kenya multiple times. I've been to Ghana. I've been multiple times. I've been in Sierra Leone. So I've come in tune with some of the business dealings, and what Anne said is correct. I mean, oftentimes it can be different than what we perceive and how we do it in America. And Africa is still, it's similar to how many emerging markets are. They want to get to know who you are first. It's about trust and things such as that. But there's some ways you can minimize that. I mean, I'm a big advocate of you create your business in Delaware. You want to have a board of directors. I'm big on that. Have your board of directors. Most businesses don't have a board of directors, so they're not necessarily following the practices when it comes to minimizing risk. And on your board of directors, who you will have is people who have done what you're trying to do. You're dealing with international trade. You want to have people on your board of directors who are done international trade. I think building international trade is by far, I think building your board of directors is by far your biggest hurdle when it comes to success. Because if you have your board of directors of people who have done international trade, whatever it may be, investing in Africa, you have them on your board of directors, your chances of failure minimizes drastically because they know who to talk to. They done what you're doing. So I think oftentimes with businesses, when it comes to particularly business by African Americans, this is what the numbers say. Most businesses there's only one owner, and that's an owner employee. They're the business owner. And when it comes to business, if you want to do business right way, particularly in an emerging market like Africa, you have to follow the best practices. Also, some things you can do to minimize your risk in Africa is that most of the for example, big accounting firms, PwC, Deloitte, they have they have offices in Africa. They have offices in Africa, so you can hire them. The project, you can meet with them. They'll meet with you for free. You just meet with them. Schedule an appointment, meet with them. They'll meet with you. You're an American, particularly if you have U.S. commercial services or someone, your board of directors can introduce you to those people who they've worked with, and then they'll meet with you for free. And you might be able to convince them to work on contingency. The idea is that they won't get paid until the deal closes. And that may be a little bit more difficult, but if you have a strong board of advisors, they'll defer their fees until the very end. So those are some things you can do to minimize your risk. And you rarely see businesses following these best practices, but that's why this 10K project is very important, because they can bring some of the best and brightest minds to do that. Because you often find people, you'll find these consultants. I mean, you'll find these consultants on the local ground. A lot of them are reputable, some of them are not. But to minimize your risk, you can deal with some of these national brands. You deal with law firms, deal with lawyers who've done these things, and that can minimize your risk. But just following those practices, having a company in America, get your strong board of advisors, experienced people who have done what you're trying to do, and then you're working with, for example, an accounting firm. For example, you can call a PwC and say, hey, I want to meet the manufacturer who specializes in this. They'll have those contacts in that country, particularly have an office in that country. Or you say, I want to meet a person doing this in this country. They'll have that phone call and they'll pick it up for you. And also, like she mentioned earlier, Anne mentioned government contracts, U.S. government contracts. I mean, the U.S. may be the largest buyer of services in the world. Most people on this call have some level of expertise. I would assume that whatever it is, you can have a government contract, whether it's education, whether it's disaster relief, whether it's legal, whether it's accounting. The government is buying that, and they need that. You're military. I mean, you know how to do security. The government is buying your services, particularly in emerging markets. So I do think those are tremendous opportunities. I don't talk too much. I can talk more, but I'll let Akindele or Anne continue to speak on it.
Akindele, you want to add something to that?
No, and I agree with Geremy. I agree with Geremy and Anne. I believe also, and I'll keep this particular remarks kind of brief. I just want to add to the fact that at the end of the day, we have to be educated about the markets. I was just speaking to someone yesterday about doing business. I think she wanted to do business in either Cote d'Ivoire or Ghana. Can't remember what she said, but she wanted to jump right on in. I had to explain to her, it's not what you think as an American. You have to build relationships. That's very important on the continent. You have to build relationships with people first, and then you have to understand exactly what you want to get into and build that trust before you can do any type of business. And I think one of the things that we have to understand is we have to look past the glitz and glamour of Africa. You know, we look at Afrobeat and we're looking at all these things on TV and social media, and we just want to jump on in. And that's not really the case. And so I think just like even if our brothers and sisters from the continent want to do business in the United States, one of the key things I talk about is the employment-based visas. And so a lot of our people do not understand EB1, let alone an EB5 visa, and how it can benefit their business, benefit not just their business, but also permanent residency. And so here in the US with them and their family. And so we try to educate folks heavily about that two-way pipeline, because people get burned all the time trying to do business in Africa. They get burned trying to do business here in the US because they lack that education. And so so what we're talking on this webinar tonight is very, very key in terms of educating those who want to do business on the continent so they can be very successful, and then show others how to do business on the continent, and kind of link that back here to places of people of color here in the United States, and these local communities that are struggling with their tax bases, that are struggling with their businesses, that are struggling to attract new residents. And so we create that ecosystem, and that's very, very key for the future here.
Very good.
Tawana, I just wanted
something?
to add something small. I just wanted to say something small that Geremy mentioned, and he sort of emphasized the big four, the PwC, the Ernst & Young, the KPMG. And I keep saying, do we own them? Do we own those companies, right? And that is my issue, because when I talk about trade, for me, it's about trading goods and trading services. And when we're talking about professional services, right, and the risk, and the legal and all that, those are services. And there are great talents in our community that are not in those big four. So can you also, when you're doing your research, find companies that are African Indigenous or African American companies that will do great work, just like the PwCs and the Ernst & Youngs, and work with them? Because I keep saying, if we don't own, we don't have economic power, and if we have no economic power, we cannot get ahead and we cannot create generational wealth. So even if I agree with Geremy that they are already established brands, and so that's why we probably will go to them, we also need to do a little bit of research and say, can we build the businesses in our communities? Because that's how we get the money flowing in our communities. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So is there a way to leverage the introduction, right? To leverage the introduction, because that was one of the key things that Geremy said, is they know, they have the contacts, they know the people that are doing these things in a legitimate way that can save us some frustration and not having to deal with the trust issue, right? So can we leverage the introduction and still somehow keep the business Black?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to respond to that if I can. I mean, when you're doing business, I mean, it's an emerging market. You have to understand we're dealing with emerging markets, and the key is to minimize risk. The key is to minimize risk, and that's one of the ways to minimize the risk. Now, there are individuals who are doing that. You go to PwC, there are going to be Africans there. There are going to be a lot of Africans at PwC there, and so you are by working with them, you are feeding African families. But she is correct. Those individuals don't own those facilities.
Right, we don't own it. Yeah, we don't know that.
But when you're dealing with an emerging market for the first time, you do want to minimize your risk. And they do have the connections. They do have the brainwash. I mean, they do have the connections. And like I said, I've been to Africa quite a few times, and I've been to many countries. And you have to work finesse it a little bit. You have to finesse it a little bit. And one way you can do that is that. But the reality, she is right. They don't own institutions. And the idea is that hopefully those individuals who are in PwC or whoever knows can come together and help build institutions. I don't work at PwC. I've consulted with PwC and from a consulting standpoint. So they do hire outside advisors. I'm not sure how to work in Africa, but they do hire outside advisors to help them with those things such as that. But that's what I'll say.
Very good. We've got a couple of questions. Kevin Stewart says, some of the fastest growing economies are on the continent of Africa. Do you think cryptocurrency and blockchain technology will enhance the GDP of all the countries in Africa? So who wants to take that?
I
can say
think
something.
it will.
Okay.
I think it will. I think it will increase the GDP once there's a framework. I mean, just today in Nigeria, they launched the e-Naira. That was from the Central Bank of Nigeria. They launched that today. Cryptocurrency is here to stay. Now, what we do with cryptocurrency in terms of government, that remains to be seen. I was just literally, and you know, cryptocurrency, blockchain. When these are some very, very important concepts, and the reason for that is because they're major game changers on how we do business, how do we look at technology, and how we look at government. And the thing is, just even in today in the United States, I was just researching, and this fell right in my lap. They have a congressional blockchain caucus. And when I looked at the membership of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus on Capitol Hill, there are only 2 Blacks out of 30 members.
Wow.
I just want you to just think about that for 30 seconds. That means that folks, whether you're consider yourself a Democrat or Republican or independent, these folks are moving fast on how we can regulate this and cash in on this market. Black folks globally have to cash in on this market. And yes, the cryptocurrency and the blockchain is going to be a game changer on the continent because young people are feeling the success of digital cash and the blockchain, of how we look at and of how we structure things. So this is, the future has come to the present, and it's up to us to really enhance it. And I think it will be enhanced.
Very
If I can
good.
add on to what Akindele said, yeah, I do think cryptocurrency is going to be huge for Africa. Numbers say right now, Nigeria is number 3 as far as the crypto market. Nigeria right now is the 3rd largest crypto market in the world. Also, I think one of the biggest things that you see right now in crypto with Africa is what they call remittances. When people send money back home to their family. A lot of times they go to Western Union, they go through all these other different avenues. There's some apps, there's World Remit, there's different types of apps they can use to send money back home. But those companies take a certain percentage of it. They maybe take 4%, 5%. They charge a certain percentage. For cryptocurrency, the fees are relatively, I mean, they're less than a penny. I mean, they're extremely minimal.
Right.
So I think with
and
that,
the speed and the transaction time is tremendously
instant.
shorter, instant.
Yeah, it's near instant. So I do think with that alone, many emerging markets in the world, a big part of that GDP is remittances. People sending money back home to their family. So by just sending $100 and they charge you 8%, that's a lot of money versus they charging you a fraction of a cent. So I do think with that, and I do think a lot of blockchains doing that. You look at Stellar, STELLAR, Stellar blockchain, they're a big one. Ripple, dealing with the XRP, that's another big one. I mean, Bitcoin is definitely, you can't overlook Bitcoin because it's a store of value. Most people in the world don't have bank accounts. So cryptocurrency allows you to have these different things on your cell phone. Go to Africa, they got smartphones everywhere. All throughout Africa, smartphones. And they have mobile money on these things. And mobile money is also your bank accounts. So with that, they allow them to have a way to store money that's independent of a bank. You don't need a third party. So you see a lot of that as far as there. I definitely think it's still very, very early when it comes to cryptocurrency, but the market and opportunity is enormous.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Anne, did you want to add anything to that question?
Yes, yes. I definitely agree that blockchain is very important. Definitely for business under cryptocurrency, but in smart contracts, and especially when we talk about the AfCFTA, which is Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, and how Africa does business with the world. It is going to be very, very, very important. The challenge that I have is the cryptocurrencies that are out there are mostly, like the Bitcoin and all this other stuff, they're outside the continent. And yes,
Sure, she'll be right back.
sorry,
Go ahead,
I'm
Anne.
back.
We got you back. You don't stay
Yes.
gone for long. We got you back. Go ahead.
I have 2 different. I want to have the fiber and I have the telecommunications. So I'm juggling the 2. whichever goes down, I go the other one. So anyway, what I was saying is what I would like to say. I know we have the e-naira, but what I would like to see, because I'm in the trade space. I actually have an Africa trade conference that where we're talking about digital trade enablers, financial services, blockchain. I mean, it would be very interesting. And we're talking about all this. I think what I would like to see in Africa and also in the US, or what the Black community can do, is actually come up with our own sort of continental cryptocurrency, as opposed to trying to do small things, because we want to do things in a big way. So I do see the future, but I see if every country has its own cryptocurrency, the central bank is the one controlling it, then we're just back to what we're doing with the normal cash that we're doing. So I would hope that people look at it from a different perspective, because the issue with trade, and I can tell you, in the US, I always have to look at currency risk, because I don't know if and I know that's why Nigeria is even going the Naira way, because by the time you're doing the change of currency between the Naira and the US, it's always fluctuating because of different things. There's so much volatility in regards to oil and trade. So we want
You're back
So
in.
before the next one goes in, I just wanted to say cryptocurrency is the future and blockchain, but I think we need to do it better. And if we could have a sort of continental wide sort of a cryptocurrency that we are all using, it would make sense to go that direction, because then you have more power and leverage when you're doing business. That's just my thought around it. And definitely it will grow the GDP, because it's going to improve more trade. The issues that we have with trade right now around currency risk and trust, all these different things will be fixed by that, and trade finance and all those other issues. So yeah, so pay attention, blockchain.
Yeah, and educate yourself in the space, right? Blockchain and crypto, it requires education. It is not a overnight, success. Don't follow the trends, do your own research. And then if that leads you to the trends, then make a wise decision. But it is an amazing space. If you're looking for help or assistance in learning, the Black Blockchain Consultants has a Discord channel that you can educate yourself a little more on. And there are other, reasonable or trustworthy resources out there. Also, there's Black People in Crypto. So there's some other groups out there on social media you can get in contact with that can help you learn the space in a very responsible way. So that's my blockchain and crypto PSA. And don't give your private keys to any strangers. That's that one too.
Yeah.
What are you going to say, Geremy?
Say something. I was going to say there are some companies in Africa right now who are building. They're African owned that are building in the blockchain space. I can share my screen real quick. I can show you.
Go ahead.
For example, this is one company in Nigeria, Cowrie. They're focusing primarily. You mentioned the e-naira. They're focused primarily on cross-border payments, as I mentioned earlier, remittances. And this is Nigerian owned. So this is a company you can look for. Cowrie Exchange. Also, can you see this screen here?
Mm-hmm.
The Katana Pay. This is another blockchain. This is based in Kenya, Uganda. They're showing the roadmap with cryptocurrency, focusing primarily on blockchain-based applications. So these are real companies, like legit companies. They're not necessarily focusing on the actual cryptocurrencies, for example, but these are like real solutions for individuals in the crypto space. Like they talk about just the gig economy and how sending money can be very expensive. Just doing jobs can be very expensive. You send it by bank wire. But they're showing that they can do it. And they're already active in Kenya. And these are opportunities, but individuals are brought up because individuals on this call, they can invest into these companies. You can just contact them and say, hey, you can see some of the individuals right here. You can contact them and say, hey, I'm looking to invest into your company. They have a board of advisors. I mean, they have, I believe, they have LinkedIn's. These individuals, these ways, when you think about investing, you can vet some of these companies. Like you can start looking, instead of saying, I have a company, look up some of the things. I did an entire video on how to invest into Africa. You find them on globallaw.tv, but these are some things you should look for. But yeah, these are already companies that are doing it. And they've raised money. I think Cowrie, they raised money from Stellar. Cowrie, they raised money from Stellar. But it's many that they've raised money from cryptocurrencies. So
Right.
look, how Tempo and Cowrie are building on Stellar blockchain. So these companies have raised money from things as that, from these different blockchain places such as that. So I
I
don't take
love
too
that.
much time with
Geremy, we're
that,
going to need
but
to bring you back to talk specifically about investing in African countries from a blockchain cryptocurrency standpoint, because I think that's definitely something we want. We want to contribute to the education of the community, because we do believe here at 10K that blockchain cryptocurrency is the future. In full disclosure, you know, Cherie, myself, Talisha Shine, Eric Spence, and Dr. Keisha Waddell started the Black Blockchain Consultants Group. So we are very connected to the space and know that it is the future. So I definitely want to talk to you, Geremy, and bring you back to talk specifically about investing from a cryptocurrency blockchain standpoint in Africa, because that's a whole different conversation.
okay, sure.
Perfect. We've got a couple more questions, and I do want to get them through. JT says, Akindele, this question is for you. Can we build a network or branch here in Cleveland like what you have? We don't have an Africa consul in Cleveland, and JT's goal is to bring one there.
Yeah, sure. Cleveland is just three hours away from Metro Detroit. Ain't nothing down I-75 to the Turnpike. So definitely, we could definitely put something together. I put my information in the chat. All JT has to do is reach out to us via our website or just shoot an email, and we can really start putting the blocks together for our folks in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland is very strategic. It sits on Lake Erie. The Cuyahoga River empties into Lake Erie. Lake Erie is part of the Great Lakes system. Once again, no Black city in America should be broke. If we're sitting on these types of waterways that's connected to the Atlantic Ocean by way of the St. Lawrence Seaway, where we can do import and exports from the continent of Africa, we shouldn't be struggling. But again, we struggle because we don't have these type of conversations that all of us are having tonight. And so definitely we have to get Cleveland in the mix. All JT has to do is look at our website or shoot an email, and we'll go from there.
All right. Let's make sure, guys, you also put your information in the chat. If you each can go around and just say it one more time also, because we'll post the replay on Facebook and YouTube, so people won't necessarily see the chat. So if you could say it aloud, and let's make sure it's in the chat also. Akindele, go ahead and give yours again.
Oh yeah, Global African Business Association. Look us up at GABA Network, GABANETWORK.com. Or if you want to email us, just email us at info@gabanetwork.com, info@gabanetwork.com. I guarantee you someone will respond. Thank you.
And you want to give your contact information again?
Sure. So you can contact us at info@regalafrica.co.ke. So Regal Africa is REGAL and then Africa, AFRICA.co.ke. And you can go to our website, which is www.regalafrica.co.ke. And of course, we're on all social media from LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Regal Africa. Thank you.
And Geremy.
Sure. I think for this, you can go to my media company, globallaw.tv. Globallaw.tv, find information. I have information particularly for Africa. I've done a couple webinars that's on there. It dives more in depth into many of the things I talked about. Also send me an email at my media company, gj@globallaw.tv. So I think those two are some good places to start as well. Or you can just just Google my name, Geremy Johnson, and see me on my website. But I think right now, gj@globallaw.tv is a good place.
Very good. And Tammy posted two other coins that are out there. So Ghana has the Adua coin, and then Senegal has the A coin. And that's Akon's coin, right? The A coin. Very good. There's one final question. Stuart says, billionaire Aliko Dangote, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, began the construction of a new $1 billion cement factory in Apella. In the Edo state in Nigeria's southern region. What other major projects are taking place on the continent? So who wants to does anyone want to take that one?
I can take it because I'm on the continent. There are major there are major projects on the continent, like amazing projects. And so my company, Regal Africa, we are sort of in 6 distinct industries: agribusiness, real estate, energy infrastructure, logistics, financial services, because I'm a banker by profession, and then we're in hospitality, healthcare, and education. So we're in different places. But I do have to say some of the major projects we're seeing are in commercial agribusiness, but also the facilitation of trade. So for right now at Regal Africa, we're looking at what we call a LAPSET project. So we're trying to connect East Africa to West Africa trains, high-speed trains, because in order for us to do trade, we need to transport people, right? So those are mega projects. They're PPP projects, so private-public partnership projects. So
Okay, and we can see you again.
yeah, so I was talking about the transport and logistics, the major projects, and how let's just say there's so many projects there. So like affordable housing. So for us in the Black community in the States, we know about the projects, right? And you know how they are. In Africa, and I will speak about Kenya, there are places called slums, right? So it's really mud houses or metal houses. It's really not a good place to live. So we're trying to do slum upgradation so that we can actually have affordable housing that people can live decently with good sanitation and stuff like that. So there are projects in real estate that you can get into. Agribusiness, like I said, energy. I mean, if people talk about Africa, they don't talk about lighting, and that's why Akon is doing a fabulous job with lighting. But the key here is we have sun all around here, so why aren't we taking advantage of solar? And I guess that's why I always say it's important that us as Africans in the diaspora, right, the African American community, understands these things and then come back to the continent and make it a reality, just like Akon has done.
Give her a moment to come back. You're back, Anne.
I apologize again.
Listen, that's not necessary. This information you're giving us is priceless. And if we've got to deal with a couple of seconds of intermittent tech issues, that's all right.
Okay, yeah. So I was talking about agribusiness is big, energy infrastructure, transport. I'm talking about rail all over, and healthcare, manufacturing. In fact, I think if people are in the manufacturing space, especially with healthcare products or just all these different type of products, the labor market is very affordable in Africa. In fact, a lot of people will be surprised. Some of the brands, in the States, like Calvin Klein and all that, they actually have factories in Kenya in what are called special economic zones where they don't have to pay taxes. There's so many incentives to set up shop in Kenya and export it to the US through AGOA duty free. And it's smart business. It's smart business. So a lot of our African American brands, why are we going to China? Why aren't we having them in Lesotho or in Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire? Why don't we set up shop on the continent? So back to major projects, there are very many of them. But for us at Regal Africa, we're very specific in 6 core industries that we think are the base of what needs to be done for development on the continent. So if you're interested in those industries, let us know.
So you were saying, Anne, if we're interested in those industries, to let you know, right? When you said that, the thought popped into my head, we need to bring Anne back. We need to cover some industries and have you bring the connect so that we don't have to worry about trying to find the trusted resource. You bring us the trusted resource to learn more about those individual industries.
Yes, and I would be happy to be back. In fact, we have a solution. The last industry, before I talk about the solution that we have, the last industry is financial service, because I'm a banker by profession. I used to work for Bank of America, so I know how banking is done. Yeah, and that's what we need to do. We need to own our bank. But because the banks are changing, the fintech solutions are the future, and that's what we're talking about now. You know, the blockchain, the cryptocurrency, but the payment, everything to do with financial service, lending, payments, we need to own that. And so, if we could actually set up this, if we could be part of these projects, invest in those business people who are in the startups, then that is great. And Tawana, part of the solution that we're doing, we have a special project that we call East Gold, that we link businesses to funders to fund it, be it debt, equity, or any kind of special structures, angel investors, and stuff like that. We link businesses to markets, right? And then we link businesses to advisors. So business advisors, legal advisors, HR advisors, just people who can help them in their business. So that is what East Gold does. Our focus really is East Africa, but the goal is always global. So hopefully one day we'll be able to connect or set up shop in the US and then do the same thing, which is I'm an American business. I want to do business in Africa. Where do I go? And the resource is all online technology. You set up what industry you're in, what you're looking for, and voila, everything is there. So that's the future that we are working on at Regal Africa. But in the meantime, we do things manually where we can and offer advice. Yeah.
That is wonderful. Yes, we definitely, there has to be a part 2 of this. I knew one part wasn't going to be enough. I told Cherie, we need like a series when we talk about doing business in Africa. This has been awesome. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I could talk to you guys all night long. But we're going to bring you back because I do think there's some areas I want to delve a little further into and really give a roadmap to the people on how to do this. So we may even make this next one a members only session to really take deeper dives into the how-tos of it all. But thank you guys so much. For everyone who joined us this evening, thank you so much for joining us. You know, many of you may be members, so welcome back. For those of you who are not yet members, maybe considering being a member, please go to the10kproject.com. Membership is only $100 lifetime, right? When we talk about we're really wanting to educate you and get you to a space of healthy financial wealth, you know, we want to do that in a way that we don't want to charge you a lot of money to be a member either. So $100 lifetime gets you membership. You see content like this that sometimes is member only content. You also get access to our Bet on Black pitches where we highlight the Black entrepreneur and we help them get the funding that they need for those who have campaigns in a space called equity crowdfunding. Actually, tomorrow, every Tuesday, we do these pitches. Tomorrow is our pitch. And we have a tech solution tomorrow that focuses on age and health. So it's a very interesting project that gentleman's name is Elliot Small. He's working on, and actually Elliot is here this evening with us. He was in here this earlier with us, checking us out. But please, if you are a member, please come and join us live tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that we can celebrate Elliot and the business that he's building. If you're not yet a member, the10kproject.com. Join us. And if you join us this evening or early tomorrow, then you also will get the link to be able to watch Elliot's pitch. But I thank you all. I'm so glad you guys put your name and information in the contact in the chat. People will reach out if they haven't already. I'm sure y'all all got some emails already because this is a great topic. Cherie and I will be reaching out again also because I really do want to further have this discussion in a members only session because I really think there's a deeper dive that we can take. Thank you guys for continually supporting us here at the 10K Project, and have a wonderful evening, everyone. And Anne, you get some sleep. Bless you for hanging out with us at 1 a.m. in the morning, sis. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for having me. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.